For this session, I am going to write a program that will use the concepts of vector, set, map, and iterator. And at the same time, I might introduce some functions like transform, count. These might come in handy because the idea I have in mind here is to write a program that will ask for a bunch of words that you would enter, and then it will look for the frequency of the words that you used. So hello world, I'm fine, I'm fine. So fine will show up twice, I am would show up twice, or I and am, etc., etc. Right? So, and I would like to do also a set that will sort the words. Okay? And it will be right out of the data structure so I'm going to store everything in a vector and then transform it into a set. Okay, so that's the idea. So this is where I'm going to store it: vector, set, map, iterator. Right now the directory should be empty right there. So we're going to start a code right here. So let's get to dev C++ here and get started. Okay, so we're going to do everything in one file. I'm going to call it my words.cpp. Okay, so the objective again is to use set. So we will investigate or the use of vector, set, map. Those will be the primary learning objectives. And then we will benefit from side effect other concepts that might come along, like iterators. Some functions like maybe, if I'm going to use words, then I might have to convert things maybe to lower so I can keep them all consistent. Maybe the to lower function. Okay. We could create our own based on the to lower. And if we're going to do something like that, we could see another function called transform. Okay, so I'm really planning here some of the concepts or the learning objectives that I would like to include. Remember I mentioned something about count as a function as well. Okay, so we need the libraries to do all of these. So like algorithm will be important. CC type will be important for to lower. Definitely we're going to need the library, the standard STL, standard template libraries, containers like vector, set, map, okay, iterator. We're going to need string if we're going to do any string manipulation. So that's going to be needed as well. Okay. All right. So these are my objectives to hit these specific points here. So let me just go ahead and let's put Drew Prof here. And today's date, what is that? 03/17/2020. Okay, fresh off the press. Okay, so I'm going to need my libraries. I'm going to definitely need to include vector. I'm going to need that one. I'm going to need set as well. And I'm going to need map. And while I'm at it, I'm going to need iterator. So I'm going to, I'm going to do also maybe an O-stream iterator so I can include a space between words. Okay, I'll get back to that in a minute. Okay, so don't mind me if I'm going on tangents left and right sometimes, but just follow along. We will get this to work. I'm going to need algorithm. CC type for, so we could do a to lower. Oh, I'm definitely going to need string. And just to cut down on some of the STD stuff. And we're going to have int main here. In my editor compiler here, I have to do a system pause. The newer version, you don't have to. For Dev C++, that is. It already holds the screen for you. So let me just compile all this. And we're going to save this as vector set map iterator in here. So we're going to call this one my words. And it's a .cpp file. Okay, compiler is not complaining, so no news is good news. Okay, so we're going to need a few things. We're going to need a data structure of type vector, and we're going to store stuff in it and display. So simply, this will be a good intro to how to use vectors. What do you do with them? So if I had vector, and I want to store words, so string, so that's a template. So that means your data structure, the payload, is of type string. Okay, and name your object, which will be my words, for example. Okay, and inside of it, you're going to be storing these strings. My words will act like an array for vector. So it's a dynamic array. So you can increase the size of this array at runtime. And that's what I'm going to do here is I'm going to input, so I can have a lot of words, maybe one, maybe two, maybe 100 put into this data structure. So that's what I have in mind. So I need an iterator to be able to navigate or traverse this data structure. So again, the iterator has to understand what data type you're playing with. And in my case, it's a vector. So definitely you need to do a vector. Let it know what kind of payload it is. And this is how you do iterator. Okay, so we've seen this before in a previous video. Now you're going to name this iterator something. I'm going to call it IT. Now, last time I just called it IT, iterator, short. But I'm going to call it IT word. Right? So my iterator for words. Okay. Now I'm going to need to input the data or the strings into this data structure. I'm going to need a temporary string that I'm going to use as my buffer to see in my data. So for example, you could do string data. Okay. Then maybe I need a message that says, okay, well, what are we doing now? So maybe enter a word, and then we're going to use the word quit to quit, right? So I'm going to have a while loop that's going to be based on the fact that you're entering data, and as long as you're not typing the word quit, it will keep entering data. So that's the idea I have here. So maybe something like this. The first message, see out. The only message I'm thinking about, enter a word. Now you could separate those words by spaces or type quit. And let's do something like this. Now I'm putting an escape character so the quotes will appear on the screen to exit. Maybe something like this. Right? So /n. Okay, and here's my while loop. So it's not a conventional while loop like you've seen before. It's going to be based on two conditions. One is you're entering the data, and as long as you didn't type the word quit, you stay in the loop. So one is cin data. So it's going to keep asking you to enter data. Now, notice it's not interactive. It's not asking you to enter a word, then hit enter, enter another word. This will keep going. So you could use this as if you're writing inside of an editor. Okay, we're going to see this in a minute. So the operator AND, which means two conditions have to be met. And in my case, data is not equal to quit. Now, as long as you don't type this, quit, you stay in there. And what's going to happen is, while I'm doing this, now I need to populate my data structure. So my words, and I'm going to have to push the data into this data structure. Dot push back. What is it? Data. This is the payload. Okay? All right, let me just compile here just to make sure I didn't make any boo-boos. Let's see. I indeed did. Let's see, to exit. I have cout. Forgot one more library. Include IOStream. This is what happens when you write code on the fly. Okay, so that's why it didn't recognize cout. So let's compile here. Perfect. All right. Okay, so as far as compiling, it's not a problem. What if we wanted to see what the data is? All right, so we're going to do a cout here. Data stored in the vector. We're going to do. Now we could use an iterator, IT word, inside of a for loop and move it. Right? We've done an exercise like that, so this is a good review. So for IT word, okay, oops, IT word equals. Okay, so we're going to have to tell it where to start. Well, your data structure is called my words. Dot begin. So this returns, right, an address as to where this data structure. So IT word is a pointer, right? So we're going to have to dereference IT word when we're ready to display what's stored in my words. But if it's a pointer, we can move it, right? So as long as we know where the pointer is at. So first, we want to make sure the pointer is pointing to the beginning of the data structure. And as long as it didn't reach the end of the data structure is not equal to, well, the end of the data structure, my words, dot end. And as long as you haven't reached that, go ahead and increment your pointer. IT word plus plus. Okay? All right, so while you're doing that, might as well go ahead and dereference the pointer, right? And see what is the payload within my words. So we're going to go ahead and do asterisk IT word. And then I'm going to put a space here. And then outside the for loop, I'm going to do an end L. Give me a new line. All right, well, we could test this part and make sure that vector works. So compile and run. Okay, let me see if I can make this any bigger. Nope, that's as big as it will get. So enter a word or type quit to exit. So if I say hi there, I'm fine. How about you? Right? So I have a whole bunch of words that I typed in. Now I hit enter. Right? It's not exiting because the condition for the while loop is still true. So you're going to stay here unless you type the word quit. Now, as soon as you do that, notice what happens. Data stored in the vector. Hi there, I'm fine. How about you? So it stored it exactly the way you entered it. Now we would like to store this in a set. And the set will sort this in ascending mode, right? So, okay. So how are we going to do that? Well, let's get started. So next, it will be a good idea maybe to copy or place my word in a set. Okay. All right, so let me just break it up here. So we have a logical part of the program here. What we're going to do here is place my words in a set. Okay, but, my words, you could have used uppercase, lowercase. So we're going to do, we're going to convert all the characters to lowercase. We're going to make sure that all of them are lowercase. So the sorting is nice and simple. But all characters to lowercase first. So we're going to convert. And I'm going to write the word convert here. All characters to lowercase first. All right. So I need either use the toLower function that's under CC type or create my own. Well, that gives me a chance to also work with the function transform. And do some sort of an iterator as well. So we're going to hit a lot of birds in one stone here. Let's figure out what this function is going to look like here. But before I do that, how am I going to call it? And so I could do a transform as well. Okay, well, let's do the function first that will return the strings in lowercase. Okay, so something like this maybe. String, and that would be toLower. So that would be my function. Okay, now notice the way I spelled toLower, so it's not the exact toLower that is in the standard library. Okay, that one is simply toLower, all lowercase. So this is a custom-made toLower, but I'm just doing this as an academic exercise. And what we're going to do is pass a string. Right, so we know it's a pointer, so we need to work it out in this manner. So what do? We're going to do a transform and then return the str after you transform it. So we need to transform this string. So transform, and by the way, this function exists under algorithm. Now it takes a lot of arguments. The beginning and the end of the str, and then you're going to tell it to go back to the beginning and use the function to lower all of the characters. So first, you're going to tell it str.begin. This is one of the limits. The other limit is str.end. Then you're going to tell it you're going to be storing from here str.begin. And you're going to use this function to lower. Okay, so that would be the function that you would use so the action is right here. What is it you're going to be doing? Right, so let's go ahead and compile this just to make sure that the code works. I got an issue. I don't think this will take a function here. I don't think this would work like this. Let me try it. No. You get these weird errors. Okay, I have an idea. Okay, just keep it toLower and do this. Okay, so we're going to scope it out this way. So let's compile. Oh, there you go. All right, that doesn't mean it will work. Let's see. We will find out. But I think that would be the way to go. All right, so we have a transform in that toLower function, so we're going to be using it also in the same manner that I did this transform. So I'm going to do a transform go ahead and transform my words all to lowercase. So transform, I could do it here. And again, you can tell it where to begin. My words this time. Oops. Dot begin. My words dot end. And then tell it where to start again. Where to store the stuff. And that would be my words dot begin. And then what action. And we notice that this probably will be a good idea. Now, you write the function that I want to call the function that I designed. Right there. Now, let me compile this just to make sure I don't have any issues. That looks good. We're going to find out soon if this works. Okay, so now, remember, I need a set in this section. My learning objective here is to use a set. So we've transformed everything if I go with an iterator and print everything, everything will be in lowercase. As a matter of fact, if you do this, let me just temporarily do this here and do this. Let's compile and run. And I'm going to, hi there, I am fine, how about you? All right, so I'm going to type quit at the end, see what happens. Okay, so the first one appears all exactly like I typed it, and the other one is all lowercase. So it works. That's perfect. All right, so again, so I don't need this here. We know it works, but I need to now copy it into a set or move it into a set. First, let's declare set and tell it where the beginning of the data structure is and the end of that data structure is. Okay? All right, so let's go ahead and do that. So set. And again, payload string. And then my set, let's call it my set. So that's your object. However, this is going to be a custom set, which means it has my word dot begin, comma, my words. Sometimes I forget that I put an S there, dot end. Okay. All right. So what else? What happens? Oh, it's a function. There you go. Now I want to print it. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to use a copy function. So let me add copy function. That's fun. We could do that. Let's do that. But to do that, it's going to need the beginning and the end. It's going to need also a delimiter as it outputs to the screen. But we need to let it know that's what we're doing. So you're going to probably need ostream, iterator, payload string. But since this is going to be a streaming characters, we're going to let it know. We're going to use the word out, and then you're going to tell it what function and what to do, a space. So the keyword out is going to be important for us here in terms of what is it we're going to put between words. So let's go ahead and print. So see out data in the set /n, and then let's go ahead and do a copy function and let it go through it. My set dot begin, comma, my set dot end, and out to delineate your words that you have there. right? So instead of doing what I did over here, so we're doing something different, okay? The results are going to be the same. Give me a new line when you're done. All right, well, let's see if it works. So first, let's compile and run. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and say, hi there, I am fine. How about you? All right, so uppercase, lowercase, a whole bunch of things. Let's see what happens. And I'm going to type quit now to get out. Perfect. Now notice how the set organizes the data in ascending order. About, am, fine, hi, how, I, there, you. Right? So, perfect. Now, how about if we wanted to know how many of any of these words did we use? But we're going to use a map, which will have a payload plus an index. Right? So that's going to be interesting in terms of the architecture of a map. We could use it to our advantage, okay, to do something of statistical review of a set, right? So the next thing we're going to do here, oops, went too far. And we're going to place my words again into a map. Now, my words at this stage is all lowercase, so that's just fine. We could do that. So place my words in a map. And while we're doing this, we want to calculate the frequency. How many hits, right, of a particular word exists. And we want to display that eventually. So we're going to have an output where we're going to output the content of the map and see what's in it. And at the same time, display how many instances of a particular string we entered as we populated the vector. So while calculating word frequency, I hope I worded it properly as to what we're doing. Okay, well, great. Let's go ahead and have a map. Notice the syntax. Now, that's not enough. Comma, int. So you need 2 items in here for the map. Now I'm going to call this my map. And remember, I told you need some sort of an integer, right, to allocate where any item is. The item is of type string. Now, I'm going to need another iterator. I could reuse the iterator that I had there or create one of type set. Because I could use that to step through the whole set. So I know what the limits of the set is. So you could do something like this. Set string. And this would be an iterator. I'm just going to call it IT for now. And I'm going to use IT to step through the set, but I am going to look at my words, the vector my words in terms of content. Okay? Now, remember, they're both the same size, so this isn't a problem. For IT equal my set dot begin. Now, remember, this is an iterator of type set, so don't say my words unless you want to do the iterator of type my words. So I'm just mixing it up a little bit here. So as long as IT is not equal to my set.end, go ahead and increment the pointer IT or the iterator. Okay, so what are we going to do? Aha, this is how you populate my map. My map. Here you go. It's going to be like an array. We're going to dereference the iterator for that, and we're going to count how many items of a particular word we have. From where? To where? With what? The words. So dereference the words there. Okay. All right. And well, we're going to have to prove that it actually works, right? So first, let me just compile to make sure that I don't have any issues, because I'm prone to make a lot of mistakes at this level here. Right, so now I'm ready to display stuff, right? So I'm ready to display this stuff from the map and make sure that, hey, you know, I want to see some statistics. Okay, let me give me a couple new lines here, /n, right? Just to separate this part here, and we're going to display statistics based on my map. So, what do we want? We want to display word frequency. So that's the application's objective, okay? All right, so we need some sort of a loop. Okay, well, we have an iterator. We could use that, it, and that it is based on set. So my set.begin, and it not equal to my set.end, it plus plus. And what do we want to do? We want to display cout, maybe the word itself. So how do you do that? You dereference the pointer, it star it, I'm sorry. And so what else? Well, you could display a message, you know, for the number. Maybe something like this. And remember, we're going to be storing, you have your function count that returns an integer. So I want to see what values did I get. My map, and then dereference it, and L. All right, well, let's see how this works. So let's compile and run. Let's see what problem here. My set.begin. Yeah, of course, I forgot my parentheses. I warned you. It's easy to make mistakes at this level. Here you go. Right there. Now, I'm going to type, hi there, I am fine. How about you? Let's do a couple things. Well, I am fine as well. Then we're going to do quit here. And let's see what we have. Okay, so we have two instances of IM. As once, fine is two times, hi once, I twice, there once, well two. Perfect.